Hey everyone, Clint here from Oak and Iron Outdoors. What I want to do today is I want to show you how I set up my Livescope and the hacks that I did as far as Livescope setup. There's some little tricks and things that I added, I think, than maybe the normal person utilizes. And I want to talk about why I set up my Livescope system the way I did. And then what I want to do throughout the rest of the video is I want to go and show you everything that I did to this boat. I made some changes to this boat. I bought this boat essentially new to me earlier this year, and I changed out a lot of different things on it. And not that there was anything really wrong with it, but it performs way better, much better. And the goal of this video is hopefully that you folks at home can take away some of these ideas, these hacks that I did, and apply them to your own boat or essentially your own setup going forward. So let's go over all of that right now. Livescope setup first, and there is a rhyme and reason for everything that I did here. Now, the pole that I went with was Fishing Specialties. This particular pole, did a lot of research on it, and it really made sense. I could run the pole, or essentially the cord, through the top and then through. Now, the main component the issue that I had with is how do I carry this pole in my boat? And the problem was I just had this kind of laying in the boat, and I was afraid it was going to fall out, bounce out. But the way the Crestliner is set up, we have this gap here in the boat, obviously, and I can lay the transducer head in the front, and I'll show you what I have on the transducer head to protect it. And then I got this guy here from Railblaza, and then you have this mount here on the track system in Crestliner. And then I essentially just ran this through, connected it right here. It comes off real easy, and boom, it's off and ready to be utilized. Now, if you look closely, it's the same system that I have on my trolling motor over here. So essentially, I just got two of them and hooked it up to the pole. And then the Fishing Specialty pole, what I like about it is that with this rubber grommet, it literally keeps this from hitting the ground, bouncing, and putting vibration back into the transducer, so everything is essentially elevated. And then what I did is I ran the cord through, and I got 3/8 inch conduit, and this is just cheap conduit that I got from an auto supply store, and I ran that all the way back into the hole here. Now, the conduit necessary? Probably not, but it just adds another layer of protection on that cord, especially when things are being thrown around, pinched in some of these metal areas, possibly, and just provide a little bit more protection for that particular cord. Now, folks, one of the nice things I like about this particular pole here from Fishing Specialties is how easy it is to utilize. You basically put it in there, slide it, push that over, and it's all set. And you are literally ready to rock. And the first hack that I did was get this essentially case here off of Amazon, or my wife picked it up for me, and it was only $7. And this is just a tablet case. It is cushioned, and it works as a protector when it's riding in the front of my boat. Now, obviously, I do not put this in the water like this, but it just adds that extra protection. Now, we're going to take this guy off. I'm going to show you what I have underneath. I now have another essentially protector of the transducer, and this is a plastic piece made by a company called Sonar Shield. And this just essentially pops off here, and then it slides off really easy. And this protects the transducer once again as I'm traveling. And this is really the protector that I utilize when I'm traveling from spot to spot on the lake, and I don't want it bouncing around and banging too much in the bow of the boat. So once again, it's just an extra level of protection. Now, some of you might think I'm a little anal about that, but you know, when you spend good money on this equipment, these little things help keep this stuff alive and well and working for you in the long run. Now, as far as pole length, it is 4 feet or 4 foot. And one of the nice things about having that previous pole is I could see the length that really worked well for my boat. And for me, the 4 foot length works out awesome. Just a little tidbit from you guys, and this was told to me by my brother, that you really only want that transducer just under the water. It doesn't need to go very far. As a matter of fact, the closer you can keep it to the surface, the more likely you're going to see that lure splash as the lure hits the water, which is true. And I really didn't need that long of a pole, so just keep that in mind as well. All right, folks, we're going back to that protection component again. And this is a laptop case, and this worked out really well for essentially protecting and keeping my unit head of the Garmin Livescope system. Now, once again, you don't have to purchase this stuff. I believe got this off of Amazon for around $12 to $15, somewhere in there. But it works really, really nice as far as if you're going to be traveling a long ways and you don't want to be keeping that head of the unit on your boat, or let's just say that you are, staying in a motel or a hotel somewhere, and you got to take off that unit because you're afraid of it being stolen. This really adds that extra protection for that unit head. So once again, we're going to pull this out. And let's go put this guy on, and then I'm going to talk to you about literally something that made my heart go through my throat and how I fixed it with this particular unit. So folks, I picked up this Garmin 12-inch unit, and I put it on, and I head out to the lake. First lake I fish, it was a little choppy out. And I literally get going, and I'm only got this thing on the boat for maybe 20 minutes. And once I hit the rough water, all of a sudden, as I am driving down the lake, this guy decides to pop off, fly up in the air, and literally land on the bottom of my boat. And I kid you not, I literally almost had a heart attack in the boat. And I've heard about these units coming off, and I made sure that when I put it on, I put it on as, the way it's supposed to be put on, as securely as possible. So I quick did some research, and I'm like, I can never have this happen again. If it happened once, it can happen again. And, I saw essentially where you could drill those holes. You could put those cotter pins in the back to keep your unit on. So what most people do is they drill a hole here and they drill a hole right here. And then they put the cotter pins on, and that doesn't allow this unit, or this piece here, essentially to flip up. And then that's how it can come out. Now, I made sure that I had this pulled down. This can play a little bit. If you notice, if I put a little pressure on it, that can pop up. And I gotta be careful because I have the unit on right now. So in order to solve that without drilling holes into your essentially unit, I found this guy right here. And this little piece here, it is a little pricey, but man, if it can save your unit, it's worth the money. So the key with keeping these units tight is that you want to make sure that these two teeth on each side are inserted into essentially the plastic back here, and that this guy is pulled down. And so I can't pull up on that. And once again, this does, have a little play in it. If you notice, I push just a little bit, and if that gets pushed in, this guy can come up and that unit will come off. So to fix that, I went on a website called Bass Tank, and this guy right here, all you do is you just take it and you slip that on, and now that piece, this bottom piece, cannot push up. And if that can't push up, that can't come up, and that will not come off. So you can find this guy on a website called the Bass Tank. It's a very simple aluminum piece. It's a little pricey, I know, but once again, I shouldn't ever have to worry about this guy coming off on the water. Real quick, I just want to talk about the bracket that you see here. And this bracket is really a nice piece of equipment, and it's cheap. Cheap as far as brackets go. I believe it was like $80 or $90. And this is all aluminum except for the knobs up top, which seems like a harder plastic. And I loosened these up prior to essentially filming right now. So you can swing this all the way out towards you, so that way bring this right in front of me like it is right now. And literally this is from where the screen is. We're probably only talking maybe 12 to 13 inches. And you can swing it however you would like. Now, some of the brackets I was looking at, you're talking $200, $300, $400 for a bracket essentially that's, I'm sure, well made and extends. But if you can save yourself $200, $300 by going with something like this, this does work really, really nice. And from where I'm using it from, I'm actually sitting in my chair right now. This does come in super, super sweet. I can swing it to the left. or swing it to the right. I'm not going to swing it too much because I got the cords back here. But this is really a nice piece. And I did have an extendable bracket prior to this, and I ended up returning it just because I did like this one a lot better, and it was 1/3 the cost. Real quick, just wanted to touch on the graph glass. I did pick up the graph glass. I have not installed it yet, but that will be something I'll be adding to this particular unit here. And if you want, comment down below. Let me know if you've utilized graph glass on your essentially fish finder and if it's worked for you before I essentially open this up and install it. I've heard a lot of good reviews, but I've heard also some suspect reviews as well. So once again, comment down below. Now, the guts of the system, and this is where my brother really came in handy to help get this guy set up. So that is the black box. This is my charger here, and that's the Noco Genius Gen 5 X1. This does charge lithium batteries. That's one of the nice things about this particular charger. Then I have the breaker switch. Now, the breaker switch, really the purpose of the breaker switch is designed to turn off and on the Garmin black box. And that essentially, I can turn this off and not have the transducer constantly pinging and putting stress on the transducer. And all I have to do is basically pop that switch up, and that will then turn the transducer on. And then I can just pop that little red button there, and that will turn the transducer off. So that's one nice thing about this particular setup, is that this transducer is not always running. And then here is essentially my battery. This battery's been working awesome for me. This is a 12.8 volt, 100 amp hour battery from this company called Chitoli. And I believe I got this off of Amazon, and then obviously the fuse in there. Granted, this was a used boat, but the previous owner that had it had a Garmin Echo Map 7-inch. And one of the neat things that kind of caught me off guard is that most of these units, smaller essentially units, would come with the GT54 transducer, which was not as good as the GT56 transducer. But this one did come with the GT56 transducer on the back. Now, when I purchased the unit up front, I thought that I would actually have to have a second GT56 transducer, but I did not, because this unit, I could hook the transducer up into here, obviously, and then there's another area in the back that I would be able to take that same image, or essentially utilize that transducer and get me that same high def image at that front graph. So that really played a big role as far as staying with Garmin, because I was actually looking to make the switch to Humminbird. So that's one thing that you're going to want to look at when you purchase maybe a used boat, is the compatibility of essentially these systems and units. So in reality, I have two graphs, but I only have one transducer, and that's kind of nice because it saved me a bunch of money, and it's one less thing hanging off the back of the boat. So folks, next thing I want to talk about are these fenders that I ended up replacing on the boat here. And I went to these guideposts instead. And I'm gonna be honest with you, these make loading and unloading your boat so much easier. And these guys that they had on there, nothing really wrong with them. Well built for the most part, but when I picked the boat up from the guy that I purchased them from, the first thing I noticed is that when these were on the boat, essentially facing this direction down below, to help guide the boat on, they would actually vibrate. I could see the vibration left to right big time while I was trailering it home. And I even talked to somebody who said they actually had these wear paint off on their Crestliner boat. So with that being said, I'm like, you know what? I don't want those. I've had stuff like this in the past with the tall guideposts, and I see them on a lot of Alumacrafts, and I thought, you know what? That would really help, especially when you fish by yourself a lot. And so what I did is took these guys off. I'll probably save these for a canoe build. I have a canoe, and I'm looking to get a trailer for it in the future, so these might get saved for that. So then I ended up getting these on Amazon. Essentially, they're 60-inch, and what's nice about these is that when you dock or drop your boat into the water, these still stick out of the water. So if you have a ramp that's a little bit maybe deeper and it's windy out, all you have to do is get the nose of the boat in between the post, and your boat, you can pull it right in, makes it much easier. I'm old school. I know some guys like to drive their boats on. Even if they do, these would come in handy. I get out and actually pull my boat on, throw on the boots, and pull that boat straight up. It's just the way I like to do things. But anyways, these guideposts to me were much better than utilizing those fenders. Now, the one thing I do want to mention though is the guideposts come in handy with utilizing these fenders that I got. And the fenders for the most part, it's a new to me boat. I want to keep it shiny and looking good over the years, but I didn't really expect this to happen. And well, it just kind of happened on its own. And there's kind of a purpose for these. So let's go over that right now, besides keeping your boat scratch free. These are the guideposts. They're 60-inch, made by a company called Smith. They're essentially just a PVC pipe. Nice that they have the reflector. But the one thing that I had with my old boat, and this boat would also do the same, is that whenever I would trailer it, the boat would automatically like to go to essentially the post here. For whatever reason, it just seemed like it wanted to always come this direction, or essentially on the driver's side of the vehicle. So what this did, having this guy here, is this gets in between the post when I load the boat up, and it spaces it perfectly every time. So when I'm loading the boat up, I really want that to be as centered as possible. And I don't know if you can tell on an angle here, but this boat is fairly centered, if almost exact. So with that being said, having this guy not only helps keep the boat from getting scratched up at the dock, it actually helps center the boat on your trailer. So if you have issues like me and your boat wants to go to one side, consider getting a longer guidepost, and then maybe look at one of these flat buoys, I call them, that help keep the distance between the guidepost and the boat. Now, real quick, you might be asking about the buoys. Where did I get them from? These I got from Amazon. Very great reviews. They're lightweight. They fit easily in my boat. I do like it that they're flat though. Because they're flat, they don't roll around, and once again, it creates that distance between the guidepost and the boat. But they're so easily adjustable. So all you gotta do is just pull this, and you can pull that apart if you want it to hang a little bit lower for whatever reason, or you can just pull that up and then move that blue piece closer on your hook here. And then I have two of them. I have one here on the back, and then I have one essentially on the side. So they're just kind of nice to help keep that boat looking nice and shiny like it is right now. I know it's not going to remain that way forever, but once again, I like to take care of my stuff, and it's just that little added factor, knowing that you're keeping your boat from getting scuffed up. So folks, next change that I had to make, and this is something that you're really going to look at in accordance to your specs for your motor and your RPMs of your particular boat. Now, every boat's going to be different, but when I picked this boat up and I took it out for the first time, I noticed that the RPMs got quite high on it, and I felt like I needed to bring those RPMs down. And on further inspection of the prop, which came with a Mercury, it's a Mercury motor, came with a Mercury 3-blade prop, I was looking at it and I seen that it was a 15-pitch prop, and I was kind of taken back by it by a little bit. My last Crestliner had a 19-pitch prop, and I thought, I'm like, why is the prop so light? Now, talking to my brother, he said, probably in most cases, the manufacturers expect people with these particular boats to be hauling lots of people or to be water skiing. And when you're under a higher load like that, apparently or supposedly, you're gonna want a lower pitch prop. Now for me, I usually have one other guy with me, sometimes two, or my little man with me when we're out fishing. So I wanted a little bit more performance from my prop, and I wanted those RPMs to be brought down because they were running, I thought, or felt a little too high, or essentially they were a little too high according to the specs. I ended up switching out the prop to a essentially 4-bladed prop, and then I ended up changing the pitch from a 15 pitch to a 17 pitch prop. And what that did is it brought the RPMs down, and it also added speed, roughly about 6 to 7 miles per hour on this particular boat. So I accomplished two things. I got more speed, actually three things. I brought the RPMs down, and I increased the ability of stabilization. So now when I take turns left or right, I notice that the boat is much more stable. Also, the hole shot is much better. I get up on plane a lot faster with this prop. Now the 3-blade prop really wasn't that bad, but it just wasn't the prop for this particular boat, and essentially the way I utilize this boat. Next up that I added to this particular boat was these boat buckles from the Boat Buckle Company. Now, when I bought the boat, they just had the good old-fashioned, essentially, ties that would go on here. You kind of use leverage system to bring it up, and I don't know if you can tell, but they kind of scratch the boat here, and they scratch the boat a little bit on the other side in doing so. And these, oh my gosh, are a dream to utilize and to work with. And they're right there. You don't have to go back and put them in your truck or whatever it might be. And they work so simple. All you got to do here is that when you get to the boat, you're just going to clip and hit right here, pull up, and then after a day on the water, all you do is just bring it back up, put it back here. You're going to essentially grab the latch and you're going to pull it up. Usually twice works for me, sometimes 3 times, and it's super tight and it ain't going anywhere. And I'll tell you one thing, these guys right here are kind of a lifesaver. They're a little bit more pricey, yes, but I'll tell you, if you got a boat and you want to make it much easier on yourself, look at getting these boat buckles. Since this is mostly about taking care of your boat and the things that I've essentially done for it, I'm going to talk about 2 cleaning solutions for my essentially new to me boat, and that is the Megars, or Megars, however you want to pronounce it, Extreme Marine Multi-Surface Cleaner. You do find this one quite common at boating stores and even at your Walmart or hardware stores. And then this is the one that was recommended to me by my brother, and that is hot sauce. And I have now tried both, and I have utilized both. And I'm going to be honest with you, between the two, and this is just my personal opinion, I do believe the hot sauce works better than the Megars. The Megars, it does leave, seems like a film on your boat, on your outer portion of your boat. It does work. It seems like it might be even a little bit more aggressive at times. Like if you had, you know, more bugs or something to get off, this does seem to work a little bit better, to be a little bit more aggressive. But I'm always a little leery when it comes to, especially in this case, the Crestliner and the aluminum boats, it might take too much off. With the hot sauce, I really like the way the boat looks after. So matter of fact, I got some on the side of the boat here. I got some, if you can see it, there are some water streaks, and this is my first black boat that I've owned, and I've been told that water spots are a big thing with these black boats. So real quick, I'm just going to take a little bit of the Megars, a little bit of the hot sauce, and let's just see if one works better or more than the other right now. Once again, I do like the hot sauce better, but I'm going to take this section over here underneath essentially the pinstriping, and we're going to clean that with the Megars right now. So I just sprayed some right onto the microfiber towel. I'm going to kind of go through that a little bit. And then I'm going to use a different portion of the towel. We're just going to spray a little bit on this side. And we're going to go under this pinstriping right here. So the Megars was over here, hot sauce over here. It might be kind of hard to see at home, but I can see the streaking pretty noticeable on the boat. And this is all real time. Once again, I think the Megars is a little bit more aggressive. It's kind of funny when you look at the directions in the back too. They will say, spray the Megars on your towel. Don't spray it directly on your boat, which is telling me it's a little more aggressive. Where the hot sauce, they want you to spray it, or it says spray it on your boat. You don't have to spray it to your towel. And I sprayed both essentially to the towel. But it's kind of hard to tell. They both work, but I don't know if you can tell right here. There's still, right there it is kind of, there's still a little bit of, if you want to call it, some shading going on yet, maybe from the product. So I had the question on which one was better. And once again, this is just from my experience of utilizing it on this boat only. Anyway, I just thought I'd showcase these 2 particular products. I think they're both good, but the overall end of it, when all said and done, if you want that ideal, clean, glossy, no residue look, the hot sauce beats that category there, beats it over the Megars. Now we're going to go to one of the most important parts, and that is the pink area down here. And you're wondering, why do I have this pink stuff? Well, I have a little Brittany named Lily, and this is where her stuff resides. So I keep her bowl And this is one of those retractable bowls. So if it's hot out, I can get water for her and give her some water to drink. But the main thing for Lily is this guy right here. Now this is a special kind of a leash. It's a really short leash, and it has essentially this really soft foam on it. Now the problem with Lily is in the past, and really any dog that I've had and take fishing, as soon as you get to the boat launch, they want to jump out and they want to go on the dock and on land, and there's sometimes other vehicles and boat trailers trying to get their boats in, and a lot of ruckus going on. And really, the dog shouldn't be out there without you keeping a personal eye on them. If you're in some little backwoods launch, it's a different story. So what I did is I found this guy on Amazon as well. And to keep Lily in place, I essentially just go by this chair here. I wrap it around once, pull tight, and then Lily only has maybe about, I'm going to say 18 inches, and she can walk around the bottom of the boat. It does not allow her to get up on the upper deck of the boat, but it keeps her in place and it keeps her safe. And that's the main thing with that component right there. So I get the boat up, launch it on, and she just stays right on the boat. And then after I get my stuff put away, I undo that guy and I take Lily right off the back of the boat. And this has worked out great. So if you have a dog in the boat, you might want to consider one of these short leashes. Just be careful though. You want that leash to be on the shorter side, because the first one I got, I was a little longer, and on my old boat, she did try to jump over the edge, and a dog can hang themselves if that would be too long. So you want to make sure that it's short and to the point. And once again, all it's utilized for is just that 10 minutes of pulling the boat out of the water, getting up on land, and keeping her safe in the boat and not allowing her to jump out in front of the boat and run around all over the neighborhood. So that little guy right there is kind of a nice little feature to have if you have a dog in the boat. So are there any future plans as far as adding anything else to the boat? And right now I spent enough money in regards to the boat and essentially the Livescope system, which I got a good deal on here in the springtime. But I do want to add, I believe, a hummingbird, just because I do like their side imaging, I think a little bit better, and I would add that to the dash. And maybe that's on next spring's agenda. And for this boat here, my main fishing is fishing the river tributaries and the Bay of Green Bay, as well as Lake Winnebago and northern Wisconsin. So I primarily chase walleyes, but when the walleyes aren't biting and it's hot and humid like it is today, then I will go after bass. But for the most part, walleyes are the thing that I do like to chase the most with this particular boat here. So if you guys don't mind, hit that subscribe button. And until next time, Clint from Oak and Iron Outdoors.